Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back. Lar here from Complete Test Success, and we have another live stream. In this live stream, it's just a Q&A, so questions and answers session. Basically, I just want you to tell me what your problems are, tell me what questions you have, and I will do my best to respond, explain to you, how to overcome your problem, or give you whatever piece of information that's missing from your knowledge, just to help you, get on the right track, make sure you understand what you need to do, make sure that you can get your required IELTS scores. So that's pretty much the purpose of the live stream. If you are, sorry, just one moment. Okay, it's just a small bit of an issue with my software here today. Can you guys just, if anyone's present, can you say hello or give a little like just to see if it's working? Hey, Sadaf, good to see you here. Okay, it appears to be working on YouTube, but not Facebook. Okay. Okay, so anyway, for those of you who are present on YouTube, go ahead, let me know what questions you have. Hi, Irene from Nigeria. Good to see you here, Irene. Okay, so if you have any questions, if there are any difficulties you're having with the IELTS test, just let me know. Okay, so I think I'm after getting it working. If anybody's on Facebook, can you just say hello or give a little like, just to give me an indication that we're up and running? Okay, it is indeed working. Okay, so I have some comments on Facebook that I couldn't see, so let me just run through those. Hi, Prince. Can we use idioms? So in IELTS speaking, you can use, you should still avoid idioms. Idioms are, it's not that you can't use them, it's that they're very old-fashioned, they're rare, the way they're used is very, very specific. So it's not enough to know the meaning of an idiom. You need to know the exact context in which it can be used. You also need to know the exact intonation, the exact stress, the exact stress pattern to use with it. So to use it accurately is quite difficult. The chances of you having the opportunity to use an idiom in the IELTS test are incredibly small. So in general, no, you don't want to use idioms in any part of the test. Sadaf, what module are we studying today? So it's just Q&A, whatever part of the IELTS test you're having trouble with. you just let me know, or if you have any specific questions, you can just ask me there. Hi Delitzo, good to see you here. Okay, so I have a question from Mabel. When estimating numbers in task 1, is it okay to use the word about? Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's completely acceptable. Okay. Apologies for the issue with my software here today. Not 100% sure why that happened. Okay. Okay, I have another question here from Jassy Tick. And let me just share it here so that I can pull it up on my own screen so we can all see. Okay, so it says, in part 1 of speaking, is it good to answer in 4 or 5 sentences, or 3 sentences would do? So don't really think about the number of sentences. You want to focus more on the amount of information. So how much information do you need to communicate? You want to develop your answers enough. So it's not, nobody's going to be counting the number of sentences. So in relation to fluency, your fluency and coherence score, you're required to develop your answer. So if you have very short answers without much development, that's a problem. In relation to your grammar, you don't want to have all simple sentences. You want to have, a mixture of complex, compound sentences. So you want to have that range. So if you're saying 4 or 5 simple sentences versus 3 complex sentences for your grammar, the 3 complex sentences would be better. So it depends if you're talking about how much information and how much development you need. The number of sentences is not important. It's the amount of information, the amount of development. So those are the things to consider based on what you've asked. Hopefully I've answered your question. And if not, let me know and I'll have more info for you. Sadaf, multiple choice questions in reading sections sometimes are quite mind-boggling. How to use correct technique. I've been getting a lot of questions about reading this week. A lot of students asking me about reading. So first of all, let me find, I have a reading lesson on my website. So let me share that with you first. But based on what you said, okay, so okay, and I'll just share it here in Facebook as well because I'm having problems. I have to do it manually. Okay. So there's a reading lesson on my website. Go through that. It will give you a lot of ideas about how to best approach the reading test. What I advise is, rather than going like trying to find the answer to each question, so like looking at a question, finding the answer, looking at the next question, finding the answer, what I advise is you read the first paragraph, and then with that information you find the questions which you can answer. So rather than starting with the questions and trying to find somewhere in the text, you're going to go with read the first paragraph, one paragraph isn't that long. You'll know what it's about. You'll know what information was there. And then as you go through the questions, you'll know which ones you can and which ones you cannot answer. So starting with the first paragraph, look at all the questions, see which ones you can answer. Read the second paragraph, look at all the questions, see which ones you can answer. But on top of that, some of the questions in the reading test have the answers in the same order as the questions. Multiple choice is an example of that. So multiple choice questions, as you're reading the text from top to bottom, the first answer you will find is the answer to question 1 in the multiple choice set of questions. The next answer you will find is the answer to question 2. The next answer will be to question 3. So that's really useful as well. So let's say you're going through it and you find the answer to question 2, then you know the answer to question 1 is above what you had just read, where you had found the answer to question 2. So that's really useful as well, knowing that those answers come in order is very helpful to finding the part of the text in which the answer is. Okay, Sadaf, you're very welcome. Okay. So let me just see. Hi, Niso, Hannah, how are you doing? Chiamba, good morning to you. Abdirrahman is saying, please teach us how to connection essay writing. Can you rephrase that? I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you could rephrase your question, I'll be happy to answer. Apukari, please, how can I improve my reading score and able to finish within the stipulated time? Okay. So again, just to show you the question. So there's something wrong with my software, but this is the question we're looking at here. How can I improve my reading score and be able to finish with the stipulated time? So I already shared the IELTS reading lesson from my website. So that will show you, the more specific strategy to follow. But in relation to the second part of your question, how are you able to finish within the stipulated time? In the beginning, don't worry about that, because what you need to do is figure out how to do the test. You need to figure out the different format, the format of the test, the different formats of the various question types, get familiar with the various question types, get familiar with the strategy that you will learn on my website, the one I've already shared with you. There's a lot going on. So when you're just beginning, to think that you can do all of that in 1 hour is not realistic. So in the beginning, you're going to take it slowly. You're going to take your time. If it takes you 2 hours or 3 hours to do the reading test, that's fine. That's no problem. You're going to take as long as you need. And let's say you need a band 8 in reading. You continue working on it until you're able to get the score you need. Once you know you're capable of getting a band 8, then you start to try completing those practice tests in 1 hour. So don't worry about the time yet. Worry about the score first, worry about the time after that. Sadaf, is it preferable to study passage first or questions first? Go with the passage first. You'll see in my strategy exactly how to do it, but one passage at a time, looking at the passage first. You'll have less information to remember. You don't need to find keywords. You don't need to skim or scan. You don't need to try and remember many different things at the same time. It's a much more practical way to find the answers. Okay. Next, Mabel. So let me just take Mabel's question and paste it on screen so we can all see it. Here's Mabel's question. In speaking, when asked where are you from, do you have to say where you are originally from or where you're staying living at the moment? So where you're from is the country you're from. So where do you live and where are you from are different questions. So I give them the correct answer. Where are you from? Where you're born, where you grew up. That would have to be the answer that you give. Yep. Okay. Delitso. Okay. So Delitso says, I keep getting 5.5 in listening. How can I improve? All right. So it's about understanding why you're getting 5.5. So when you are doing your practice listening tests, what you do when you're finished a test is how you determine how you will improve your score. So you do a practice listening test. When you finished, you check your answers. How many did you get right? How many did you get wrong? That's how you find out you get, your score is 5.5. But how do you improve your score? You look at every incorrect answer you got and you determine why did you choose the incorrect answer. So it might have been, for example, last week, we were talking about this and one student said, well, I was reading the questions when I should have been listening. Okay, so that's an exam technique. You were focusing on the wrong thing, so more practice will improve that. Whereas another student is saying, well, I can't understand the speaker's accent. I'm not familiar with the Australian accent. I find it difficult to understand it. Well, if that's the issue, then you need to become more familiar with, a range of accents. It could potentially be, and eventually will be, your vocabulary. So you might need to improve your vocab. Is it because when you write down the answer, you have the incorrect spelling and you're losing marks because of your spelling? Well, then you need to improve your spelling. So those are all the things you need to consider. So you should have the question sheet, the answer sheet, the transcript, all in front of you, all your answers open, and use all of that information to determine, this was the correct answer, but this is the answer I chose. How did I end up here when I should have been here? So it's really about like very, very careful analysis of your practice tests. Once you've analyzed it, you should know the specific reasons why you're not improving your scores. And it might be, and in a lot of instances for students, the problem will be their vocabulary. They don't have enough vocab to improve their scores. So at that point, doing more practice listening tests is not going to improve your score. You need to improve your vocab. When you've done that, come back, and then you'll get a higher score in the listening test and subsequent practice tests. So next I have Faisal. I prefer to watch your classes. Great, thank you. Thanks for the compliment. Mahidul, watching from Bangladesh, how can I improve my grammar for IELTS tasks, please? Okay, so let me just pull this up on the screen again. Okay. How can you improve your grammar? Well, it's all about working on one thing at a time. You don't want to just try to improve your grammar. It's a massive area. So if you just try to improve your grammar, progress will be slow, perhaps non-existent. You want to work on a specific area. So, are you having problems with subject-verb agreement? Are you having problems with articles? Are you having problems with pronouns? Like, what is it, prepositions, whatever it is. But focus on one thing. Also, make that one thing your weakest grammar area. So whatever your biggest weakness is, just focus on that. And then it's about, going back through the rules again, figuring out what rules you're using correctly, what rules you're not using correctly, making sure you understand the rules. Then you want to find them in text. So, read newspapers, read articles, find instances of that grammar rule being used in the real world so that you can apply, okay, so, there are 5 rules. There are 2 rules I'm still not sure of. So then as you analyze various reading texts, whatever newspapers or whatever you read, and you start to see the grammar in use, that will help you to get a better understanding of it and see how it's used. And then from there, you start to, get a better understanding and use that better understanding to improve your own accuracy, be it in writing or in speaking, whatever way. But that's essentially narrow it down, make sure that you're working on as specific a grammar point as possible. The more specific the thing you're working on, the easier it will be to improve because you're completely focused on one thing. That's a very important starting point. You don't want to work on many, many different areas. Just progress is too slow. So that would be a big thing to consider. Okay. Hangoma. How can someone improve in listening, especially if you're a slow learner? So we covered that already, Hangoma. Pretty confident I covered that. Hi, Ali. A blissful day. Good to see you here. How to improve reading. Karishma, we've covered that. So, hey, Jervin, good to see you. Alexia, good to see you here. Again, apologies for the software not working. I don't know what happened. I think Facebook seemed to disconnect. So I'm pretty sure it'll be working again next time. Mabel, when estimating numbers, oh, we had that already. Okay, seems like we're all caught up. So again, if anybody has questions, be it about something they don't understand or a problem they're having, just let me know. Okay, Lutful Kabir. And the question is this. Always fail to generate ideas in task 2 IELTS writing. What would I do in this problem? Now, again, it always depends on the cause. You need to find out why are you not developing ideas. So the initial problem could be you don't understand the question. So it might be that the question, the vocab in the question, it might be, some grammatical structure in the question that means you cannot understand it. If you don't understand the question, there's nowhere forward from there. If you don't understand the question, you need to improve your vocab. It's as simple as that. If you are failing to generate, if you understand the question, you cannot think of ideas, it might be that you're making things too complicated for yourself. So again, I'm just guessing. These are various possibilities, and these are things I've seen with a lot of students. But the solution for you depends on the problem you're having. But if it is, you're trying to think of very complicated, complex ideas. If it's that you're trying to think of an idea that you think, sounds like official or sounds like something you would find in a newspaper, none of that is necessary. You just need to make sure that your answers are relevant. That your main ideas are relevant and specific. That's it. Those are the only requirements. So if you have a simple idea, it doesn't sound wonderful, it's not unique, it's not entertaining, it doesn't sound like something a newspaper would publish, that's all fine. A simple idea that's relevant and specific, that's perfect. So make a plan, write down your ideas, remove any that aren't relevant, remove any that aren't specific. So that's basically the main areas where students are normally struggling for generating ideas. But again, it depends on your specific situation. So it has to be, why are you not able to do it, and address that issue directly. Irene, in listening, maps are my problem. What do I do? So I've seen two quite common issues here. One is that it's a person who cannot read maps, someone who struggles to read maps. If they were to use a map to, find their way around a country or find their way around a city, that they can't do it. So it might be that you just can't follow a map. I've seen that. Or it could be that you don't have the typical language that is used to describe a map. So like the going across here, on the adjacent side, to the left, to the right, moving through. So like if you see the way the listening is done, they normally have like a starting point and they just walk through the map, talking about what's on either side of them as they walk through. So is it that you don't understand the language they're using? Is it because you cannot follow the map? Again, what is the reason for you not being able to do it? And once you know that, you'll be able to address it. Hey, Prav, good to see you here. Okay, so I have another question here from Faisal. Faisal says, sir, how can I explain writing part 1 overall? How to write the overview? Okay, so again, let me just pull something from my website for you here. Okay. And okay, so you'll find that in the comments, but it's basically, there it is. So it's basically this. It depends on the question. So if it's a map, there's a particular way you need to do it. If it's a process, there's a particular way you need to do it. If it's a graph, so like a bar chart, line chart, table, pie chart, whatever graph type it is, you need to first determine how many time periods are involved. So if there's only one time period, so it's just a static chart with no movement, no time periods, then you're going to look for the highest and lowest figures. If it's over time, so there are 2 time periods, 3, 4, 5, a line graph where it's across 20-year time period, you're looking for which categories increased and which categories decreased. There's more to it than that, but that is the fundamentals of the strategy that I developed, and you'll find that in the link right there. Hadisa says, hello, sir. I want to get IELTS test, but my grammar is weak. How can I improve it? So Hadisa, we discussed that already earlier on. Alexia, idea generation is a struggle in writing task 2. How can I improve that? So we discussed that already. The chart shows. Okay, so let me just paste this in here. So this is Faisal again. Faisal says, the chart shows components of GDP in the UK from 92 to 2000. How can I write the overall? So this is the question statement. So you just rewrite that in your own words. That's got nothing to do with the overview, though. The overview is based on the graph, so the image. So this part here, you need to rewrite in your own words, and we call that the paraphrase. After that is the overview based on what happened, the general trends in the actual graph, in the actual image that this question goes with. So it seems you're not really sure what an overview is. So definitely that lesson I shared will help you with that. Sadaf, what to do if someone comes across a unique question in third part speaking, how to make a little time to present ideas before speaking. Well, that's basically why part 3 is difficult, because you're given unique questions. You're asked to come up with something on the spot, and that's where the examiner is going to distinguish between the higher band scores. So if you're a low band score, the IELTS examiner will know what score you are before you get to part 3. If you have a higher band score, the examiner needs to separate a 9 from an 8.5, an 8.5 from an 8, an 8 from a 7.5. So to determine that, they're pushing you to your limits. And that's why you're being asked questions of things you've definitely never considered before, because you have to think about them, come up with what you're going to say, come up with your answer, and then express that in a limited amount of time. So that will almost definitely happen to you in the IELTS speaking test. That's the way the test is designed. So you just take a moment, make sure you understand the question, come up with one response. What will happen sometimes is students will start speaking before they know what their answer is, and then they get really confused because they start speaking and now they feel they're under pressure. They have to come up with something really quickly. That makes them stressed. Give yourself a moment, think of one thing, make sure you know what your answer is before you start speaking, and then how you develop that answer will have to come to you as you speak. But make sure that you know what you want to say, at least that one main idea. And even if you come up and you have, it does happen where a candidate will have 3 possible ideas that they want to develop, but they haven't decided which one, and they start speaking and the answer is quite scattered and unfocused. So, decide on one answer and then just move forward as best as you can from there. Solwyn, could you please advise me on how to expand your ideas in task 2? So to expand your ideas, to develop your ideas in task 2, really the easiest thing is to explain it and give an example. But it depends on how many main ideas are in your essay. So when it's just 2 main ideas, an explanation followed by an example is the easiest way to have full development. Sometimes there will be 3 main ideas and it will just depend. Normally an explanation and an example as well. But then when there are 4 main ideas, you don't have enough time to develop them to the same extent. So you would either go with an explanation or with an example. So one of, not both. But it depends. It just depends on the number of main ideas. Spontaneity sometimes does happen. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So I have another question here from Ikra. Okay, Ikra, I'm doing very well, thanks. Sir, I want to do my IELTS exam, my IELTS main exam before December, but I understand all native speakers. But when I talk, sometimes I feel nervous and don't talk properly. Is this case thing? What should I do? So, like, is that your personality? Like when you speak in your own language, do you get shy around people? Are you quite introverted? Is this something that you experience in your own when you're speaking in your own language, or is this something that you only experience when you're speaking in English? So that would be my first question. After that, it's if that's not the problem, then what is it? Is it that you cannot think of the words to say? So is it that you don't have the vocabulary to communicate your ideas? And then if you're talking about something too complicated, you know that you won't be able to discuss it. Therefore, you need to improve your vocab. And you said here that, you can understand everything, but the way vocabulary works is there will be vocab that you can understand and vocab that you can use. And those are considered as different aspects of your vocab knowledge. So it's called receptive vocab and productive vocab. And those are considered two different things. So maybe you understand everything and you do have the vocab for reading and listening, but you don't have the vocab for speaking and for writing. So that could be the problem. So it just completely depends on your situation. It might be your fluency. Maybe you do have the vocab, but you just need a lot of time to construct those sentences. So, it might be the case that, you're more comfortable with writing because you have lots of time to think, whereas with whereas with speaking, you need more time than you have in a normal, in a normal conversation, in the context of a normal conversation, and therefore it's a fluency issue. So it always depends on what is the cause of your problem. Figure out what the cause is, and take it from there. Hey, Lam, long time no see. I have a question about a number of times we can ask the examiner to repeat the question or explain words as many times as you want. Would we get our score reduced if that happens so often? No, it doesn't reduce your score, but only a student who would get a low score, only a candidate who would get a low score would need to do that. Asking those questions does not reduce your score, but if you need to, then, on occasion it's fine. But if you need to do it a lot, it's because you have a problem with your language ability. So no, it's fine. It's fine to ask, but if you need to, you're not going to get a high score, basically, for other reasons. Not for this reason, but for other reasons. Good question, though. Okay. Asim asks, is there any chance to repeat the previous essay writing task? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Asim. Can you rephrase that for me, please? Essay Mamun, sometimes I can't understand question pattern. How can easily get question pattern written in task 2? Okay, so we kind of discussed this earlier on. But if you can't understand the question, probably because your language ability isn't, at the required level. So to get a good score in task achievement, you need to be able to understand the question, because the task achievement score is checking if you answered the question. If you can't understand it, you can't answer it. Simple as that. So, it's really about your language ability and, improving your general English skills so that you can understand the questions. But, if you're at the point where you can't understand the question, your language ability isn't going to be high enough to get a good score with what you produce. So it's not just you fix understanding the question and then you can get a high score. It's not just the fact that you can't understand the question. It's the fact that you don't have the language ability. So really work on your grammar, work on your vocab, get yourself to the point where you can both understand the question and produce answers to the required level for the score that you need. So it's probably a longer path towards getting your required scores than you would like. But if you are 100% committed to getting your IELTS scores and moving to that country of your dreams, that is what you will need to do. Okay, because I heard from a so-called former examiner that if a question has to be repeated to us 3 or more times, the examiner will take it as poor English ability and reduce the score. No, and the examiner won't repeat 3 times anyway. If the examiner repeats twice and you ask again, they'll move on to the next question. So they will never, they won't continue repeating forever. They'll repeat twice, they'll move on to the next question. If you ask again, they'll repeat twice, they'll move on to the next question. So that's not going to happen. And you're very welcome. Thanks, Faisal. Thanks for the kind words. Okay, Alexia has another question here. Okay, so this is Alexia. So another question, if in speaking, if they asked about art and I know nothing about art at all, what should you answer? So the questions are designed so that anybody can answer them. So it's not about your knowledge of the topic. It's about you having the vocabulary to discuss the topic. So you don't need to know about art history. You don't need to know about, how to make specific types of art. You'll never be asked something that, the normal person on the street wouldn't know about art. So, the IELTS test is very carefully designed to not put you in a situation where, it requires, a university degree in art history to answer the question. Like you're not going to be asked what year was Van Gogh born. It's not going to be art history. It would be something more general, like, do you enjoy art? Or when you were younger, did you have art classes, or did you enjoy art classes? Or have you ever been to an art gallery? What's your favorite type of art? So it's going to be general things like that. You're never going to be put in a situation where you don't have the required knowledge of the topic. You'll be put in a situation where you don't have the required vocabulary to clearly communicate your answers on the topic. So the issue isn't your knowledge of the topic. Your issue is the knowledge of the vocabulary. So let's say the problem is you don't have the vocab to discuss art in a general way, then this is a vocab problem you have that you need to address. But you don't need to worry about the IELTS test coming up with some, very specific questions that you don't have the answer to. That will not happen. IELTS does not do that. Okay. And so how can I join you live? So I'm not doing the live the live feedback in this live stream. Okay, Sneha Moni. Okay, so here's Sneha's question. Okay, sir, reading passage 3 seems much tougher. It is, that's true. I get distracted from where I could start because they do more paraphrase in it. Okay, and I do rush on it. That's why I could not even touch remaining questions. Yeah, it's tougher. It's intentionally tougher. Like I was saying in part 3 of the speaking test, it's intentionally more difficult so that Cambridge can determine the higher scores, but determine which candidates are 9, which candidates are 8.5. If they were all easy, you can't, like, it's not a good test if everybody can answer every question. So intentionally, passage 3 is more difficult, and for the most part it's done through making the vocabulary, using less common vocabulary. So that's basically it. If you're able to answer every question type, so if you're always getting the answers right in passage 1, there's no question type that's causing you difficulties. It's just you get to passage 3, vocab is too difficult, can't answer the questions. Then the solution to that, unfortunately, is to improve your vocab. That's the problem. So that's the solution. So it's always the case with all these questions. You'll notice that determining whatever part of the test you're doing, determining what your issues are is the most important thing. If you understand what your problems are, then you can improve your score. And like that's why, like on my IELTS writing course, a massive aspect of improving student scores is giving lots of feedback. I give you feedback. This is what you've done wrong. This is what you shouldn't. This is a mistake you shouldn't repeat. This is a grammar problem you have. This is what you need to improve. So it's all about that very, very narrow focus on these are the specific things stopping you getting your score. Address these, move forward, find out what the next issues are, move forward, continue doing that until you are capable of getting your IELTS scores. Speaking of which, let me just share my other resources with you. So I have a bunch of other ways to help you. I have free live feedback lessons on Zoom. So those are group classes on Zoom. I also have one-on-one IELTS feedback. So be it writing feedback, speaking feedback, and I have IELTS speaking and writing courses as well. So if you want more one-on-one support, if you want more hands-on support, if you need to know what you're doing wrong, you will be able to find all those services there. Technically, questions get increasingly harder after each part of the reading and listen test, don't they? Yeah, definitely. That's intentionally done that way. Do you have an IELTS speaking course? Very close to completion. Very close to completion. I said I'd have it finished last week, and I didn't. I have a few little finishing touches to put on it, but very, very soon that will be available. Yeah. And you'll find that with the link. You'll find that at the same link there. Sadaf, regarding speaking section, can one make up a random answer no matter if it's based on fact? Yeah, it's a language test. You know, it's no problem if your facts aren't accurate. No problem whatsoever. It's just, is your language accurate? That's the only thing that the examiner is concerned with. Essay Mamun, you're very welcome. Sim. Okay, this is an interesting question. Okay. Essays that already came in the exam. So there are any chance to repeat that in the next exam? No. And I see this online a lot where people are trying to say, give me money and I will show you what your question will be. Things like that. That doesn't, no. It's not possible. You need to prepare yourself for whatever question you get. So it's not, you can't fake your way into a high score in IELTS. IELTS is just actually really accurate at determining candidate scores. So no, there's no easy way. If you need a band 7, you need to be able to write a band 7 level essay. So no, unfortunately, there isn't a quick, easy way. You can't pay your way into a good score. You really have to be capable of getting that score. Chassis Tick, very welcome. Alexia, welcome. Ate, okay. Okay, I believe that's it. Those are all the questions. Let me just recheck again. I'm having problems with my connection with Facebook at the moment, so I'm trying to jump back and forth manually. All right, that does indeed seem like I've answered all the questions. Oh, Sadaf, can one quote any relevant statistics from any research paper in writing task 2? Yeah. The exam says the exam doesn't have any particularly big problem. Excuse me. Cambridge doesn't say you cannot do it, but very often the way that students write them, it just doesn't flow very logically. And you don't need to know a statistic. So I would recommend just say what you know. So like, let's say we're talking about the number of homeless in your city for whatever reason. It's connected to the question. So we're talking about the homeless. Say, for example, in my city, there are far more homeless people these days than there were when I was growing up. Okay, so let's just imagine that's relevant to the question, relevant to your main idea. So you can say that, but what a lot of students or a lot of candidates will do, they'll make this up. Say, for example, in my city, there used to be, 5% of the population were homeless, and now it's more, and now it's roughly 18.5%. So it sounds very made up. It doesn't, and it's like, who's going to have those statistics off the top of their head? It's very unlikely that that's going to be the situation. So rather than going with like a research study that you've somehow know the actual specific data, just say what the scenario is in your city. Say what the scenario is. You don't need specific data. You just say, like, for example, there are far more homeless people in my city nowadays compared to when I was younger. That's fine. That's an example. Or, for whatever reason, as long as it's relevant, that's fine. So that going in with that specific data, and I know a lot of IELTS examiners, they're not fond of those types of examples as well. So I'd say best to just go with what at least sounds like a real example from your own life experience. Regarding comparison, I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sadaf, but I'm pretty sure I've answered the question for you. Let me know if not. It sounds like I have. Okay. Okay, let me have one last look here on Facebook, and then we'll finish up if we don't. Okay, that seems to be it. No more questions on Facebook. YouTube is dried. Oh, last question. Okay, we'll answer this and then we'll finish up. Okay, Kent. Will the examiner keep pressing on asking about topics that we have made clear, unable to answer due to lack of knowledge? I think they will be mindful enough to spot if we actually don't know anything. No, they'll stay going. They'll stay going. They have a list of questions that they need to follow, and they're not in a position to decide what questions to ask. There's a list, they're following the script, they're going to ask you the questions. So if you're on a topic in part 3, and it's not that you're going to lack the knowledge, so we talked about that already, it's going to be that you lack the vocabulary. They're going to stick with that topic. You're going to have to, do your best with the vocab you have. They will definitely push forward. Yeah, they will definitely keep pressing, as you said yourself. Yeah, that's what will happen, Lam. Good, Sadaf, good to hear it. Okay, so Niso, please, how can I analyze writing task 1? Yep, so you'll find my feedback service here with this link. Those are available and you'll be able to purchase those there. Okay, that's the last question. Okay, great. Lovely talking to everyone again. I posted an academic task 1 question on Sunday. So far, only 2 students have responded to that. So if you're doing academic IELTS, I would recommend responding to that as well. You'll have a good chance of winning an essay correction on Thursday. When it's task 2, there are normally far more responses than that. So if you're doing academic, get in there. Good chance that you'll win on Thursday. Lam, you're very welcome. See you in the next live stream is right. Okay, take care of yourselves, everyone. Have a good week and talk to you either in my live feedback lessons or in the next live stream. Okay, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye, everyone.